Xero, an extraordinary company founded in 2006 in New Zealand, to now being one of the fastest growing software as a service companies globally, supporting 2 million plus subscribers who use its business platform, and I'm one of them. My business is one of them, and it is a great platform. So our talk today is going to be about scaling via product, partners and planning. And to do that, we have Ian Boyd, who is Xero's Director of Partnerships for Asia Pacific. Ian oversees the engagement with the financial industry, large strategic partners and third-party apps, because as we've been talking about earlier today, it's all about collaboration, and that's one way that helps that happen. To help that conversation along, we have Nicole Buisson from Open Insurance. She is the Chief Customer Officer. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put those hands together, make some noise in the same room. Can't do this on a Zoom meeting. Clap and cheer them. Over to you guys. Thank you.
Thanks for the introduction. So I'm really excited to be here to talk to Ian today about one of our favourite unicorns out of the ANZ region, Xero. Xero's seen some fantastic results recently, growing 20% year on year to 2.7 million customers globally. Can you talk about how product and partnerships played a role in that?
Sure, and I think one of the things to keep in mind around this last year has been obviously the pandemic. And part of what we have seen, Simon referenced there before about the statistics coming out of the CBA of the move to digital transactions. That's a trend we're seeing across the board for digitalization of small business. So we're really seeing that as a massive tailwind into more traditional sectors that haven't taken on the digital journey yet, specifically in small business where we're focused. With the pandemic, there wasn't the opportunity anymore for a customer to go into their accountant or bookkeeper with the shoebox. So that's been, I think, one of the biggest contributors to some of the growth we've seen in the last year. So that connectivity, that working on the single general ledger, is definitely it's brought the later majority through a lot quicker than we had expected it would. But I think we're seeing that across multiple industries of that surge that has come through of not being able to do business in the way that they had previously.
Fantastic, and obviously, SMBs were an enormous focus through COVID. I think, a lot of people started wanting coffees locally always, and Xero has this unrelenting focus on the customer. Now, what does that mean for Xero?
That's a cracking question, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about. I do some of the induction discussions when we're bringing new people into Xero, and I've got a picture that I put up, and a lot of my team know what that picture is because I use it quite a lot. And it's of my wife when she was running her own e-com business. It's dark outside, it's 11 o'clock at night. We've got a 6-month-old on the lap, and she's using Xero. She was doing reconciliation for the last week's transactions, and she got it done in about 5 minutes. So I was very glad to be able to get that photo. But that's the thing that sticks in my head. And I think within Xero, you'll find most people have that kind of picture in their head of a small business that they love or that they at least really like. So that comes through at an individual level. But then when we get into decision making, I've worked in financial services most of my career, and it has been, let's say, different businesses think of things about customer centricity in very different ways. But what I found at Xero is there is that clarity on the hierarchy of decision making. So the customer is at the top by like a country mile. There is daylight between the customer and then the partner and then Xero. So we have that hierarchy in pretty much any of our decisions. I'll give you a quick story that my third week into Xero, which was just over 4 years ago, Rod Drury was still the CEO, and I'd just come out of financial services. Massive customer problem landed on my desk. Here you go fix it. How can we fix this problem? And I went at it with, okay, bottom line. We've got to support the bottom line. We've got to make sure that we're not affecting our revenue. We're not doing the things that I would normally think of in a financial services world. And I presented that to Rod, and in a very human way, he told me I was extremely wrong. It was one of the most embarrassing moments of my career, but he was very nice about it. He just said, we don't do that. First of all, it's not the right thing to do. Second of all, the customer always has to win. The customer is first. We will wear the short-term pain to the balance sheet, and we will make sure that the customer stays whole. Two really important things that I've learned off the back of that. Firstly, the lifetime value of those customers would far outweigh any short-term gain that we would get to that bottom line hit. And also the thing that I've come to see through some of our community forums and stuff, the virality of being treated badly. One customer will tell 100 others. So if we had affected, let's say, the 20,000 customers, that would have been a massive piece of negativity that we didn't want in our ecosystem. So just coming at things with a really human and customer-centric lens comes throughout the business. And that's been, it's part of why I work at Xero, really.
Great, thank you. I think there's probably a lot of fintechs here in the audience today that are very interested in how exactly Xero has grown as it has. And we're going to explore three elements today, so product, partners, and planning. So we're going to kick off with planning. Now, Xero first financed itself in a very interesting way. In its first year of life, it went public on the New Zealand Stock Exchange, raising $15 million with just 100 customers. That speaks to a big picture plan from the outset. So what does that mean for Xero?
I'll come back to Rod Drury and the experience that he already had as a founder of multiple businesses. That when he hit into this pain point, and he knew it was a massive pain point because he was living it between him and his accountant. He was having to download onto, I don't think it was a floppy disk at that point. It might have been a hard disk. But he had to download, take it to the accountant. The accountant uploads it, go, no, that's wrong. You've got the numbers wrong. Go back and do it again. And he just found that a massive pain point in a couple of the businesses that he was working on. So his understanding of the problem, and it was a multiple, it was a massive problem across multiple different segments of the small business economy. And so knowing that there's a problem, and then how to fix it with his experience as a founder was quite, it was mapping out the blueprint at the start of how big do I want to get, and how big is the problem globally. And there's this new thing called the internet. Let's make sure we're using the cloud storage, the cloud connectivity to fix this problem. And nobody else was doing that at that point. It was all quite traditional. So I think his understanding of the scale of the problem and how to get to that problem in a way that would scale beyond just Australia, beyond just New Zealand, where obviously it was first focused. That thinking was at that very start, and then going on from that, the planning that's gone on from on an annual basis is always thinking about 3-4 years ahead, or even further at times. And it's just that continual cycle of planning. It's never one and done.
Very nice. Should we turn to product now? So that's a second way that Xero obviously has expanded enormously. So people love the Xero product. It's transformed the lives of lots of SMBs, but it's also saved marriages. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I saw this question come through, and I Googled it, and there's at least 3 that we have saved through the Google. But I think if I come back to some of the values that we hold as a company, beautiful is one of the core values that we have within our business. And if we think about that as it relates to product, it is building product that is so simple to use, so easy, and so groundbreaking in that usability, in that UX, that that really is that differentiator in the product set. But then it's also it's thinking about how do we enhance that product? How are we building on top of it? And we'll get to in the partnerships piece about where do you make that decision of, are we building this? Is this part of the core infrastructure that we want to own, or is this something that we want to buy in, or is this something that we partner for? And you've seen a bit around the grounds on product that is well, yeah, good and bad, and now at Open, what do you think is kind of tips and tricks?
Yeah, look, so similar to Xero, at Open, we're a business operating across Australia and New Zealand. And we're a very product and design-led business. You might have heard our founders, Jason and Jonathan, speaking earlier today. So we offer embedded insurance. We're a platform for that, and unique products for customers such as pay-as-you-drive car insurance. And so I think, when you're a scale-up that's a little bit before the size of Xero, there's a couple of things that have been important for us. So really starting with that very strong ethos of being a product and design business. So we've got 50 people. The majority of those are design and product people. We've also got a product team that's really focused around customer problems. So we've just sort of rejigged the product team to focus around those. And then finally, I'd say, we've got a very diverse team. So people from all over the world. Our head of designers, from France, which always works well. And because of that, the product team approaches problems differently. So that's something else I would say has been pretty important for us.
And that actually twigs something for me. The knowledge of the customer problem within Xero, we're used to thinking about that single pain point. What we've started doing, what we've done from the start and started doing in earnest is looking at the entire workflow of that customer. So a lot of fintechs in the room will be really excited about the thing that the pain point that they solve. What I would say is some of the best integrations that we've got are the ones that think about the end-to-end of that process, not just that single point. So say it's in payments, it's about the pre-initiation, it's the actual payment itself, but it's also the accounting and the back end of that transaction that we're really thinking about in terms of that product, that beautiful product. How do you make that work to the best way it possibly can?
Fantastic. So we're on to the third area of growth, partnerships. So Xero obviously has a wonderful ecosystem of partners that engages lots of other fintech businesses. And obviously partnerships is in your job title, looking after partnerships for APAC. What do partnerships mean for you at Xero?
Well, I should be able to answer this one, hopefully. So the main thing around partnerships, I think a couple of the bigger tech firms have said on this stage and others, we're not going to build everything. You can't build everything. And if you did, you would be on an absolute hiding to nothing. We know that for small business, there's around about 30 to 50 jobs to be done. And we're going to do a subset of those really, really well. Where we're not going to do those, we want to make sure that the customer gets to do that in the most digitally enabled and seamless way possible, so that they are seeing that value of being on Xero. So in terms of the partnerships that we look at, it's got to be, I think Samina Hussein-Lech from Square said, it's got to be a win across the board. Coming back to that decision-making framework, for us, it's got to solve that customer pain point first and foremost. If it doesn't, it's not going to work, full stop. We could have the best integration with the best tech, But if the customer doesn't want it, what's the point? Then looking at the partner has to see value in this. If the partner doesn't see value in it, it's not going to be in their best interest to maintain that relationship. They're not going to invest in it. And I would say something that I've seen since being in Xero, that the payoff comes with the investment. So connecting to a platform, I've seen companies that do it well. They connect, but they invest heavily in marketing, in sales, to really put that connection in front and center as part of their customer. When people just integrate and expect great things to happen, it doesn't resonate, and it doesn't get the cut-through, and you don't get the ROI. So when we're thinking about partnerships with, when Xero's thinking about partnerships to other platforms, or when we're looking at inbound partnerships, really we do advise and we counsel about making sure that there is enough investment beyond the tech to make it land well, so that you're getting that ROI. If it's not, if you don't do that, then the customer will not see it.
Can I ask you a bit about embedded partnerships, Ian?
Oh, sure.
I know that Xero's done a great job of embedded partnerships for payments with Stripe and GoCardless and others, and also for lending with the likes of Waddle, which you now own, and Moolah. Can you tell us a bit about those embedded partnerships and how that works?
Sure. We do have, we've got an open ecosystem. We've got an open API. Anyone can connect that hits a certain threshold of security. We do have, we're connected to the ATO, so there's an operational framework that sits behind that. We do have to make sure that we're managing our ecosystem and our API responsibly. So with that openness, you get to see a lot of really cool things that people are doing, and some things that are just absolutely mind-blowing. And those are the things that we will test and learn with, and then we may want to go, well, how about we bring that closer into the product? How about we surface that in product? How about we have an onboarding flow that doesn't take you out of Xero? We'll manage it through the Xero APIs. Those don't come along that often, so I know there's a few entrepreneurs out there who think, I've got the best piece of kit ever. I'm going to get a space in product, in Xero, in Intuit, in MYOB. I would temper that enthusiasm. Make sure you've got something that works in the wider API first, and then that becomes something that you can leverage into a better and better integration. I think the key point here is that even if we're embedding something like GoCardless or Stripe deeply into the product, we still want choice. We still want the customer to be able to get what they want. So if they want to work with Square, if they want to work with Paperplane, they want to work with anyone, they will be able to connect that. They will be able to use that if it's connected to us at that point. And I think one of the things to think about is how are you getting that feedback from your customers? So our community forums are run throughout Xero, but we know from some of our conversations with Stripe and Square and others, they get a lot of feedback that says these are the things that these are the entities that we want you to be connected with. So if you haven't already got that feedback loop, that would be something to invest in to make sure that you're fulfilling what your customers are looking for.
Fantastic. And so you've done payments, you've done lending. Do you think insurance might be on the horizon? That's a cheeky question.
Very cheeky. Never say never. We are looking at how financial services works in more depth. The easiest ones and the ones with the most impact to customers at this point are how can we affect the cash flow? How do we get customers paid quicker? Or how do we help them manage payments out in a better way? And then where there are cash flow gaps, how can we help them get access to capital? I have no doubt down the track we'll be looking at how can you insure against the assets that you've just bought, that kind of stuff.
Fantastic. So we've covered the 3 topics now, Ian. So are there any final points that you want to leave us with? And then we'll head to some questions from the audience.
Sure. I think 2 points. I know you're supposed to do 3, but 2. Leverage platforms like Xero, Intuit, MYOB. They have reach. They have good channels, but do that in a very thoughtful way, and realize that there is investment that needs to be made for that to work. Don't go into it thinking that I've done the integration, we're done. Hopefully that's one thing that can be hammered in. The other is you're not alone. This is a broad community. Just walking about in the halls today, it's been fantastic to see how many people are just connecting, having, oh, I've found this problem. How have you dealt with it? And it's a phenomenal community. So stay connected to that, but also connect into other communities wherever you can. So again, the platforms are a good space for that. What about you, Nicole? You got any last tips and tricks?
Well, actually, yes. So I guess, for scale-ups, at Open, there's a couple of things that we're thinking about as regards partnerships. So the first is getting really clear on the verticals that we're going after. So, for example, we think a lot about the home ecosystem, and how we can embed insurance products into digital mortgage lending workflows to make it really easy for customers. So rather than having to fulfill that compliance need by going off somewhere else, we can work with digital mortgage lending partners to embed insurance into those processes. So I think verticals are really, really important. Scale as well, working with big partners. So we work with Telstra and AHM. So really thinking about who are the biggest partners that we can make the most impact with. And then I think finally, we look a lot to Xero and your open APIs. So making sure that we have those open APIs that partners can connect in with really easily, such that they can then drive to new revenue streams as well. So those are some of the things that we're focused on.
Cool. Well, I think that's. How are we doing for time, Sam?
We have 2 minutes for questions from the audience, if anyone has any. Yes.
Art's got.
David Carbines from Cogsflow. Could you talk a little bit about how you're embedding ESG, or how you consider ESG both in your own companies and the partnerships that you undertake?
That is a really good question, and one that I'm probably underqualified to answer well. I do know that ESG is something that we do focus on as a major part of our investor relations. We focus it also, and probably most importantly, for our people. Our Xeros really value what we do and how we front up to the community at large. And if we're not doing that, then we wouldn't be the place that people want to work in.
Ian, if I were to ask you that question at next year's conference, what are you going to do between now and then?
I will read up a bit more on what we do in ESG. I do know that we are carbon neutral, so that is a definite, I know that. But I will get back to you with any others.
I can talk to that a little bit for Open. We're really proud to be a certified B Corp, so we take it very seriously. And that's both within our products as well as the culture that we embed, in the business. So we do a lot of sort of activities such as beach cleanups and those types of things with our employees, but equally within the products, we seek ESG goals.
Cool.
I think that's it then. Thank you so much, Ian, for a fascinating session.
Thank you, Nicole. Always great.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Ian.